Good afternoon and welcome everybody to Florence. Let me welcome also those who are following this meeting online. In particular, I would like to thank the policy officers who are following us from Brussels and who have given us their valuable support. Well, I'm very glad, we are glad that you all have accepted our invitation to this kickoff meeting of the project CARE4CARE. And I'm glad to see all the partners and the stakeholders here. We really appreciate your presence today. Before starting, let me thank the Prorector for Research of University of Florence, Professor Deborah Berti, for attending this event. And I leave the floor to her for a greeting with great pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's on. Thank you. Thank you, Maria Luisa. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Florence University. And thank you for the kind introduction. So I'm here. I'm Deborah Berti. I'm the Vice President of this university and its Deputy for Research. So I'm here to represent Professor Alessandra Petrucci, our president. Unfortunately, she could not make it today, and so she really asked me to be here, and it's a pleasure for me. It's a pleasure because I knew about something about the project when this was proposed, and then I knew about the very happy outcome. I was informed by Simona, by the way, and I'm really happy because, of course, I went through a bit the abstract, the participants, and it's really a fantastic theme, I guess, very original for me. I'm a physical chemist, so far, far away from what you are doing here today, but I'm first of all, a citizen of this country, an European citizen, I would say. So by going through your abstract and what your aims are, the objectives are in this project, I think it's really a big challenge and probably not so well addressed so far, not addressed at all, because it's true that during the pandemic, the people working in the biomedical sector were at the central stage, so you could watch television and see, this big doctor or epidemiologist speaking about pandemic and so on and so forth. But then, and I mean, in a way, there are, let's say, their problems or issues they faced during the pandemic were at the central stage, but here what you're addressing is something of a hidden part. And so I think the keywords probably for this project is inclusion. Inclusion because our society is facing many multifaceted challenges, some challenges we were not even thinking about in the previous years, but then so we are facing big transformation in the society, and what I learned from my research or from my job here at the university as vice president, in order for every transformation to be improvement or to be effective, you have to conjugate it with inclusion. So people must feel part of that, and so I think you're really addressing one of the weak spots of this transformation. And I'm particularly proud because this project is led by Florence University, so forgive me for being a bit, and we have 4 departments involved, and I think this is embodying really the, let's say, multidisciplinary aspects of this challenge you are here addressing. So we have the law sciences, statistics, medicine, and then the 4th one is, social and psychological sciences. So all of this part. So from my position or from my perspective, what I see is that it has many, I would say not overlap, but connection with some big projects going on in the University of Florence within the National Recovery Plan. For instance, the University of Florence is leading what is called Tuscany Health Ecosystem, which is a 360-degree overview and action on all aspects related to health and management of health, but also inclusion. And I think you have very good connection with one spoke 10, I would say. And then we are leading also a partnership for the challenges connected to aging. And also this is a very central theme here, because for the caregivers, I mean, it's something that we have to keep into account. The other thing I'm particularly proud about is the team. That's a dream team, besides Florence, but yeah, I'm a bit biased, possibly. But we have several countries in Europe. So we have Spain with 2 universities, Girona and Sevilla. Okay, then we have France, Bordeaux, Germany, Frankfurt, and Lund, Sweden. I know very well Lund, and Poland also. And then we have our Simona Costa. Yeah, tour for you. I mean, Simona is possibly the best and most passionate advocate for Tuscan research in Brussels, and I'm sure she will do great with communication strategy. I see, like, from the bag and the tag, and everything is done, really very, very well. So what else to say? I think I will stay here and listen possibly to the first lecture on that. So let me use your name, CARE4CARE. I would say we care for CARE4CARE. And we could go on forever and ever. And I really would like you to feel very, very welcome. Florence is at its best, I would say, in these spring days. So I hope you will, you have the backdrop of this historic city, and I think this will add to the pleasure of meeting and starting this very exciting project. So I wish you all the best, and I'm sure this dream team will really address the objectives and aims.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words, Deborah. Thank you. Just a few words to say that Professor Simoncini, Dean of the Department of Legal Science, cannot be present today, but he sends his best wishes for our common and future work. I would also like to send my special gratitude to Professor Daniela Massi, who is a friend and colleague of mine at University of Florence, and also to Mrs. Maria Grazia Maestrelli, past regional equality advisor, with whom the first idea of this project was conceived. And I'm also pleased to welcome Eleonora Gresti from Research Office of University of Florence, and Francesco Rizzi, past research fellow at University of Florence, who both made a great, great contribution to the writing of the research proposal. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Professor Brown as the ethical advisor of this project. Welcome in Florence. So now we can start and move into the presentation of the project. I'd like to remind that we started working on this project while we were in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the emergency made us realize, if there was a need for it, how much we were relying on the care sector, which, accordingly to the European Commission, is among the key sectors for the future of European society and economy. At the same time, it is quite evident that this sector has suffered for a long time up to the present from a severe shortage of personnel, and depends almost entirely on the shoulders of women and migrants who work mainly for lower wages, fewer protection, and insufficient security. All these reasons led to the announcements during the September 2021 State of the Union speech of a preliminary proposal of a European care strategy. But they also raised the question in our mind, who cares for those who care? the willingness to care for those who care is the starting point of the CARE4CARE project founded by the Horizon Europe program. My brief presentation aims to introduce partners, rationales, units of analysis, objectives and goals, outputs and methodology of this project. Moving now to the consortium, as Deborah already said. As you can see from the map, the consortium spans the European Union from north to south and from east to west. 10 partners are involved, 7 universities, 1 communication and dissemination organization, and 2 associations from civil society. In addition, the European Trade Union Institute is giving us its support. Each of our partners deals with a specific work package, which they will present shortly after my introduction. Having considered the partnership, it is now important to ask about the rationales of the research. The project revolves around 3 main rationales: empowering women and migrants, fighting against discrimination, improving working conditions and awareness of rights. Care workers are mainly women and migrants, which makes the care sector an interesting field in which to verify the dynamics of segregation and exclusion that affect the labor market. At the same time, it is a challenging testing ground which permits the design and the verification of new measures to counteract discrimination and to promote social inclusion. Since the communication to the European Parliament, the Council, and the European Economic and Social Committee of 20 November 2017, containing the EU Action Plan 2017-2019, the European Commission included the care work sector among those sectors key to the future of European society and economy. The COVID-19 pandemic has made even more clear the centrality of care work in modern societies, but it also makes more visible many critical issues affecting the working conditions of care workers, such as the lack of adequate economic resources, the workforce shortage, the pressure put on care workers and the risks to their well-being, the underfinancing of social care as a consequence of the reorganization and the partial retrenchment of the welfare state, the weaker bargaining power in these sectors than in many male-dominated sectors, the undervaluation of female-dominated jobs, the prevalence on undeclared work in domestic care work, patterns of discrimination in the sector on grounds of gender and nationality, and the intersectionality between these 2 factors. All that make crucial improving job quality standards and awareness of rights. After considering the why, we come to the target workers of the project. The target of this project are care workers in the public and private sector, caring for people with disabilities, the elderly, and sick people, especially home caregivers, basic care workers, social and care workers, health professionals with at most a bachelor's degree, such as nurses. Moving to the objectives and the goals of our project, let me say that the project aims at highlighting the risks and conditions of vulnerability of the target, with a specific focus on discrimination and socio-economic undervaluation. The ambition of the consortium is then to create a model of analysis and regulation of the care sector that can be replicated in other European countries and can bring out new relevant strategies for intervention in order to elaborate legislative and policy proposals at the national and at the EU level. Lastly, the project aims at giving voice to care workers and to their representatives in the design and delivery of policies and measures that affect their lives. To this end, it is necessary to raise awareness and consciousness among care workers and trade unions by making rights clear and usable for workers and enhancing collective bargaining strategies. The outputs of this research project are twofold: research outputs and societal outputs. The partners will have the opportunity to address each of them. I will just give you a brief outline of them. Regarding the research outputs, firstly, the research will provide a comparative analysis of the working conditions in the care sector. Secondly, the research aims to assess the direct perception of working conditions and well-being at work, as well as awareness of their rights. Thirdly, the project will investigate strategies and techniques of regulation of working conditions in the sector. Regarding the societal outputs, the first outcome is represented by the drafting of the CARE4CARE policy paper that includes general policy objectives, possible measure in national laws, possible measures to national social partners and institutions, possible measure in European law and for European social partners and institutions. The second outcome of CARE4CARE is the design and delivery of training programs to empower trade unions, employers, and the representatives of families associations, who will be the target group of the training. The aim is to improve job quality and counteract discrimination in the care sector. The third outcome consists in the realization of a web platform optimized for smartphones and tablets that will be structured to provide user-friendly information on relevant national and European legislation. The scientific research will be developed with a comparative and interdisciplinary approach, and in order to maximize the impact for society of the outcomes of the scientific research, actions aimed at empowering the target groups and the relevant stakeholders of the project will be provided. The main methodology adopted will be legal research in a comparative and EU perspective. A comparative analysis of legal aspects, labor market conditions, and industrial relations aspects on job quality and working conditions for care workers will be conducted in order to get an assessment of the sector in the 6 EU member states involved in the project and characterized by different models of welfare state. A psychosocial survey will also be conducted through focus groups, questionnaires, and audits to outline a picture of the quality of work and awareness of workers' rights. And both qualitative and quantitative data will be collected to shed light on a psychosocial working condition that can affect care workers' well-being across the 6 EU member states involved in the research. Specific attention will be given to how structural variables such as demographic, work-related variables, psychosociological and interpersonal, are related to care workers' mental health and well-being, both in private and public sectors. Finally, I would like to point out that in order to comply with an ethical approach, the project is advised by Professor Brown, whom I thank for his valuable work. And this is, in summary, the outline of the project we are already working on, and I would like to thank you for your kind attention. Okay, thank you. So to better frame the research topic, we have invited our dear friend and colleague, Professor Silvia Borelli, from University of Ferrara, national and European expert on this topic and well known to most of the consortium partners, and to deliver the keynote lecture. So we are very grateful to Silvia for accepting our invitation and for her speech. And please, Silvia, you have the floor.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. And thank you very much to Maria Luisa, William, Giulia, Michele, and all the friends of the University of Firenze for this invitation. So first of all, I want to congratulate you all for the success in the project. Bravi, really, congratulations. Before starting my speech, I need to explain you why I was invited today. So in 2020, I published a book. I have some spare copy if you are interested. It's in Italian. The title of the book is Who Cares? Il lavoro nell'ambito dei servizi di cura alla persona. And in this book, I decided to analyze the care working, the working condition of care workers. While I was writing the book, I was aware that care workers are a very broad and heterogeneous group. Therefore, I decided to focus mainly on long-term care and child care. And due to the huge territorial differences that exist in Italy on this topic, I decided to focus mainly on Emilia-Romagna, my region. While I was preparing the keynote speech, I faced exactly the same problem. How can I limit my research in order to provide you with an helpful contribution? And after having talked with Maria Luisa, Giulia, William, and mainly with John Tronto, that I had the pleasure to meet in person last year, and that I thank you for the suggestion. And I also discussed a lot with Sofia Gualandi that helped me in the preparation of this speech. I decided to focus on one aspect that I think that is of paramount importance for your research. The fact that the care worker condition deeply depends on the way in which the welfare is featured. In other terms, in order to understand why care workers suffer from poor working conditions and low salaries, we need to clarify how our welfare system was set up and how it works. Of course, I don't have the expertise to analyze all the welfare system of the 6 member states involved, so I will focus mainly on Italian welfare system. Anyway, I think that all the 6 member states involved in the project face the same problem that Italy is currently facing. In fact, all over Europe, population aging, women entrance in the labor market, the drop of birth rate, the changing structure of families, and the high youth mobility have strongly increased the care needs, especially for elders. However, the way in which the state reacts to this common problem depends on the welfare system. So before starting my analysis on the impact of the welfare state on care worker condition, I need to clarify some postulates of departure. First of all, I share Martha Feynman's elaboration on vulnerability. I assume that each person is vulnerable. Martha Feynman's work on vulnerability aim at overturning the neoliberal way to conceive human beings as autonomous, independent, and self-sufficient entities, responsible for their own development and in competition among each other. Neoliberal individualism conceals care and denies care needs and interdependency of human beings. Obviously, this has an impact both on the gender division of labor, on the role of the community, and on the state responsibility. According to neoliberalism, individuals must be freed from the state. The state should not interfere on the choices of the individuals. And the state should be neutral on issue of families, and it should not adulterate families' internal dynamic. The pandemic has clearly proven that we are neither autonomous nor independent. We need care throughout our entire life. However, the degree of vulnerability varies in time. We are more or less exposed to the risk throughout our life, according to our resources and the social economic context in which we live, that provide us with different tools to defend ourselves against risk. Therefore, we are all vulnerable, but each of us suffers from different degrees of vulnerability. Due to our vulnerability, care is a basic condition of our survival. However, care is threatened by capitalism, that because of its drive to unlimited accumulation tend to destabilize the very process of social reproduction on which it relies. Recently, Nancy Fraser has talked about cannibal capitalism. There is a translation of the book in Italian. The book was just released this year. Reference to care and vulnerability revealed that my analysis of care worker condition stem from a feminist perspective. Disregarding for the moment the different type of feminism, we can say that any feminism recognizes patriarchy as a social system in which position of dominance and privilege are primarily held by men, and criticize it as a primary cause of women oppression. A main feature of patriarchy and the patriarchal welfare is the separation between private and public sphere. Care has been relegated in the private sphere, where it is performed mostly as unpaid and invisible labor by women. This has allowed the dominant class of white men to free themselves from the burden of care work. The exoneration gained through the strategy of separation and naturalization of caring has released men energies for other activities without them feeling the need to recognize neither their dependence or care, nor the care work on which their existence depends. In the meantime, care is associated with women, and its importance and value is obscured. In my analysis, I support an intersectional feminism. That means a feminism that approaches simultaneously gender, racial, and class domination. Adopting this intersectional feminist perspective is of paramount importance to approach a global care chain, exploited also in Italy, to solve care needs in the richer countries at the expense of poorer countries. The massive engagement of female migrants has exploitable and vulnerable care workers in the richer state has been considered a good solution to the increasing care needs. Good from the perspective of the richer state that tend to reduce their social expenditure, extremely bad for the poor country where the migrants come from that suffer from a care crisis. Another point that has to be clarified before analyzing how the type of welfare affect care worker condition is the distinction between paid and unpaid care. Here I use a definition that was provided by ILO in 2018 in a very important report on care jobs. According to ILO, paid care is any care provided by a service provider or a worker for a salary or a fee. Unpaid care refers instead to care provided by family members, close relatives, friends, neighbors, or volunteers. My research on care worker condition concern paid care only. However, it is extremely important to underline the strong interconnection between paid and unpaid care. First of all, the needed quantity of paid care depends on the available quantity of unpaid care. Currently, the need of paid care increases because of the decreasing quantity of unpaid care due to the women entry in the labor market, the changing structure of family, and the population aging. The quantity of unpaid care is also affected by the working time regulation and by the employment flexibility. In fact, the available quantity of unpaid care is negatively altered both by the broad power recognized to employers to vary the timing of work performance and by on-demand contract. Recently, the Directive on Transparent and Predictable Working Conditions has tried to limit the abuse of on-demand contract and to increase working time predictability. However, this directive has not modified the Working Time Directive that widely allows employer variation in daily and weekly hours of work, as well as changing of work schedule. Besides, Italy has questionably implemented the Directive on Transparent and Predictable Working Conditions. Neither Article 11 on the limitation of on-demand contract has been transposed, nor other provision on working time predictability have been introduced. Second, the cost of paid care increased alongside the growth of paid care needs. It means that the cost of paid care increase when available unpaid care is not sufficient, is insufficient. Consequently, when the legislator decides to authorize on-demand contract and to legitimize the employer power to vary the timing of work performance, the legislator decides to increase the need and cost of unpaid care that must be supported by the state or by families. Moreover, the cost of paid care depends on the wage received by unpaid carer on the labor market. In fact, the cost of paid care needs to be lower than wages received by unpaid carers whose participation in the labor market would be otherwise severely affected. How many times do we hear our friend lamenting that all their salary goes to nanny? A fourth link between paid and unpaid care concerns the transition from the male breadwinner family model to the dual earning family model. In fact, the precariousness of many types of employment, as well as the related in-work poverty, threaten the male breadwinner model and forces the shift toward a dual earner family model. This negatively affects the available quantity of unpaid care and increases the paid care need. Therefore, a care job insecurity trap is generated. The dissemination of precarious jobs, as well as the unpredictability of work schedule and low salary, increase the paid care need that must be supported by the state and by family. We can conceive two opposite solutions to this problem. On one side, we can assume that paid care is fully supported by the state. On the other side, paid care can be fully bought on the market by families. Both solutions present several problems. First, paid care fully subsidized by the state presents a problem of financial sustainability. Can a state cover all the costs of paid care generated by the care job insecurity trap? Can do it when facing population aging and the related increase of costs for health care and pension. Surely not in Italy, where the region recently have lamented the fact that the public fund for the healthcare system, they are not enough. Moreover, the cost of a fully subsidized paid care system should be covered by taxation. So to understand who should finance a fully subsidized paid care system, it is important to verify how the tax burden is distributed among people. In Italy, it is well known that tax burden falls mainly on workers. This is a feature shared by many states. In fact, in a context of regime competition, the free movement of capital has gone alongside the progressive decrease of taxes on capital, as Thomas Piketty has clearly explained. Therefore, a fully subsidized paid care system risks to promote a redistribution from poor to rich. While the latter, the rich, can benefit from job precariousness and global movement of capital, the former, the poor, have to pay higher taxes for financing public services and social treatment needed. The second solution to the care job insecurity trap, paid care fully bought on the market by families, presents as well a problem of reverse redistribution. In fact, this solution increases the differences between the rich, who can afford high-quality care services, and the poor that have to accept low-cost solutions for their care needs. Among the two opposite solutions to the care job insecurity trap, several different options are possible. As pointed out by John Tronto in this book that I strongly recommend everybody to read, the decision on how to allocate paid and unpaid care should be democratic. Caregivers and care receivers, it means all of us, should participate in the choice on care distribution and its cost allocation. However, currently, we face a democratic crisis since the decisions we can make on care are limited due to the constraints imposed by the dominant rules. For example, Italian Parliament cannot freely decide to fully cover paid care costs because we need to respect the public expenditure limit imposed by the Maastricht Treaty. So, turning now to the analysis on the type of welfare state and their impact on care workers' condition, I should recall that Italy belongs to the feministic welfare model. In our country, welfare has been developed to support and preserve male breadwinners facing risk that prevent them from working. Therefore, monetary transfer has been much more important than in-kind services, and solidarity has been intended mainly as redistribution of economic resources. Care has been usually delegated to families, social services have been underdeveloped and underfinanced, and state intervention has been relegated to cases where families fail to fulfill their role as social safety net. Since the traditional job division is very present in the country, women have been and are mainly responsible for care. The invisibility of care work and its gender distribution has been strongly promoted by the legislator. that has widely supported the male breadwinner, female caregiver family model and has intervened on care services only occasionally upon pressure of feminist movement. The feministic welfare has a huge advantage for the state. It lays the burden of care mainly on family, meaning on women, and liberate the state from this responsibility. However, stability depends on women oppression. It means it depends on gender inequality. The feministic welfare has been strongly affected by the growing entrance of women in the labor market, as well as by population aging, the low fertility rate, increasing family instability, and the greater job insecurity. These elements have declined the care capacity of family and have boosted social need. Due to the high public debt and the rigid constraint imposed by the European economic governance, Italian public administration could hardly maintain the few existing public services or develop new ones. Therefore, a do-it-yourself welfare has progressively replaced the traditional feministic Italian welfare. In the do-it-yourself welfare, families should find alone in the private market a solution to their care need. This type of welfare has been fueled by several factors. On one side, women emancipation corresponding to women entrance in the labor market has caused a women deresponsabilization from care whose burden has been externalized. Due to the fact that public services are not available in Italy and the very low availability of men care, both for cultural reasons but also for legal reasons. So you have to take into consideration that in Italy, a paternal leave has been introduced only recently. So for this reason, care has been displaced on care worker and care services available on the market, what is called care marketization. In the do-it-yourself welfare, the cost of formal care strongly affect the caretaking choices. Families can opt only for care arrangements that are affordable for them. Therefore, in order to satisfy the care need, the do-it-yourself welfare should provide to the families low-cost solution. In Italy, the cheapest caretaking option is home care work. We are famous all over the world for our badanti, the female migrant that look after old person at home. Elsewhere, I have demonstrated the legal and illegal form of exploitation suffered by the badanti in order to keep their costs very low. In short, I claim that being aware of the paramount role of badanti to face increasing care needs of families, the legislator has deliberately developed methods to reduce the cost of home care work and has tolerated the widespread illegality in the sector. This result is pursued by maintaining a special status for care workers. In fact, Italy has not adopted the labor legislation to guarantee them an equal treatment and to protect them from the risk entailed by home care, but has kept a special regime created in 1958. Migration law helped as well in limiting the cost of home care workers. The wide majority of home care workers are migrants, female migrants. The reason why migrants accept these exploited jobs have been described by many scholars. First of all, home work offers them accommodation and food. Second, they are not exposed to control since labor inspectors are much more difficult in private houses. Third, in Italy, a person can be employed as domestic care worker without any qualification. Besides, migrant care workers are less conscious of their rights and more hesitant to enforce them since they fear of losing their job and consequently being expelled from the country. In fact, Italian migration law still requires a contract of employment to release a work permit and punishes migrants not having a resident permit for the crime of illegal migration. Noting the widespread presence of migrants in the sector, Betty and others have referred to a move from a family model of care to a migrant in the family model of care. Cash for care payments are another tool to provide low-cost solution to care needs. The widespread resort to cash for care scheme has not only affirmed a conception of care as commodity, the so-called commodification of care, it has as well worsened the care worker condition in order to reduce care costs. Since there is no constraint in the use of the main care for cash scheme for elder and disabled people, the indennità di accompagnamento, this allowance has often been used to pay undeclared or underdeclared care workers. In fact, the amount of the allowance, this year the allowance is €527, does not cover the cost of a full-time regular home care worker. Other methods elaborated by Italian legislators to provide low-cost solutions to care need concern outsourced care services. So, facing the decreasing availability of unpaid care and the rigid expenditure constraint, public administration have extensively contracted out care services. This has caused several consequences. First of all, the already existing regional disparity have further increased. Second, public procurement law does not apply to open outsourcing procedure. It means that this legislation does not apply when a local administration establishes criteria that have to be respected by private service providers without selecting them. In these cases, the several rules aiming to protect workers contained in public procurement law do not apply. It is also worth to underline that open procedures to authorize private care providers have been developed by regions such as Lombardia that strongly support a consumer-oriented approach to care services aimed at emphasizing the wishes of the user. However, in many cases, user-free choice exists only on the paper. In fact, the service that can be chosen by the families depend both on the services available on the market, on the cost that the family can bear, and on the resources that the family have to make informed choices. In the meantime, the Italian legislator, has elaborated a specific rule to support non-profit actors whose role, for historical reason, has been and still is relevant in the social services sector in Italy. One of these rules states that public administration may enter into agreements with non-profit social security service provider if they are cheaper than recourse to the market. Being care services labor-intensive, the cost containment stems mainly from the reduction of labor cost. Finally, I should underline that public funding for care services are extremely fragmented and discontinuous. This has been further accentuated by the National Recovery and Resilience Facility. This is an extremely important instrument developed during the pandemic in order to redistribute resources toward member states most hit by the pandemic. Unfortunately, this is just a temporary instrument that ends in 2026. And because this facility, these resources will end in 2026, they cannot be used for structural costs. For example, they cannot be used for hiring care workers. They can be used mainly for infrastructure. Therefore, we can solve the shortage of care workers using the National Recovery and Resilience Facility. Finally, in a plan play published in 2020, the CARE Collective has proposed to develop a care state. It's called the CARE Manifesto. A care state is a state that ensures versatile, high-quality, and cost-free care for anyone in need at all stages of life. My analysis on the interconnection between the paid and unpaid care proves that in order to make this idea concrete, we need an holistic approach that's starting from the recognition of our vulnerability and interdependence, encompass enhancement of care, its redistribution among genders, the defense of public welfare, the respect of migrants and their home country, and combating inequality. Unfortunately, the European care strategy lacks of this holistic approach. In fact, it pretends to promote care recognition without questioning the three fundamental principles of the European integration: economic freedom, free competition, and sound money. Therefore, I doubt that the agreeable purposes pursued by the European care strategy can be realized. To set up a care state, we should rethink working time regulation and forbid on-demand contract to liberate time for unpaid care. We should support unpaid caregivers. We should enforce positive action to promote men participation in care work. We should expand public welfare policy into areas where welfare states have historically provided limited support, such as long-term care. We should reconceive our fiscal system to limit capital movement, introduce a new form of taxation, and restore their progressiveness. We should recognize care workers as essential workers and improve their working conditions. We should modify migrant law to reduce migrant vulnerability. We should highlight the close connection between the quality of care and the quality of care worker condition. But more than anything else, we need to support voices of both paid and unpaid caregivers and care receivers. We need to develop a counter-discourse on care. We all, as caregiver and care receiver, should have the right to participate in public process by which judgments are made about how society should ensure the right to receive care and the right to give care. And here I quote John Tronto. Therefore, the role of trade union defending care workers' rights should be strengthened, starting from the recognition of social services as a field of the European sectorial social dialogue. Unfortunately, the unionization of care workers has been traditionally low. On one side, this is a consequence of the under-evaluation of care, not considered a real work by many male trade unionists. On the other side, many care workers are migrants, not aware of their right, and often not trusting on trade unionism and scared of losing their job and their residence permit. Besides the nature of the workplace, often home, of these workers prevent them from meeting and socializing. It is therefore important to remind that we live inside the successes of past struggles. Many rights we currently benefit from, as maternity leave and paternity leave, have resulted from long, harsh battles fought by women, workers, and trade unions in the past. Without this battle, transformation of the neoliberal do-it-yourself welfare toward a care state would just be a commendable intention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silvia. Thank you very much for your brilliant presentation. You point out a lot of issues and suggestions that will be very helpful for our research and our project. Thank you very much. So now we can move on to the second part of this meeting, and all the partners will present their work package and the role they will play in this project. So. Thank you, thank you. So now we change the table, and I ask please Mia and Ferran and Francisco to join me here. Mia. Yes, yes, please. You will be the first. Okay, so I have now the pleasure to have my partners here, and first of all, Mia will present Mia Ronman, Professor of Private Law, and it's okay? Okay. Mia Ronman is Professor of Private Law and Labor Law at University of Lund and leads the work package 2. So, okay, good. You're the floor.
Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues and friends. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues and friends. It's a great pleasure and honor to be part of this comparative project on care work and care workers, which is, of course, a topic of great societal importance, which not least the COVID-19 pandemic so clearly has highlighted. So it is my pleasure to present the key elements of the work package on job quality and inclusive working conditions. So the objective of this work package is to address and critically examine job quality and inclusive working conditions of care workers, both in public and private care sector and in formal and informal economies. And our aim is to provide comprehensive data collection and analysis and socio-legal research on care workers and care work in national context, in comparative context, and in European international contexts. So our perspective is socio-legal, and we will apply a number of different methodologies, so including legal analysis, and it's important to highlight that we will take into account analysis not only of legislation, but also of collective bargaining, employment contracts, and of course, case law from national and international courts. We will also include labor market analysis in order to explore the labor market situation of care workers in different occupations. And we will, of course, include an industrial relations analysis to look at the role of social partners, the relation between them, and what measures are available for advancing working conditions. And our key deliverables are national reports in 6 EU member states, stakeholder seminars to enable dialogue and fruitful policy development, and a concluding comparative report. And this country selection and the selection of the partners will provide varied and rich perspectives to form the basis for comparative analysis, in line with what Silvia highlighted, the importance not only of labor law and industrial relations systems, but also of welfare state models and of care sector characteristics. So I thought I would say a few words about the key research and substantive issues that our analysis will focus on. And first of all, I would like to say that overall, throughout all these aspects that we will study. We will, of course, highlight the content, the quality, and the level of working conditions and protection, and also challenges in these regards, and include aspects of effective enforcement and the delicate relation between law in the books and law in action. So in each member state, and also from a comparative perspective then, we will explore aspects of care work and domestic work and how they relate. We will look at different notions of care workers and occupations, their labor market characteristics, the overall regulatory framework in the member state, and important current debates. Try to explore where the key, crucial, critical debates are. We will look at the fundamental trade union rights, forming the basis, of course, from international law, but also see if there are, in this particular care sector, perhaps restrictions when it comes to freedom of association, right to collective bargaining, or the right to use collective action as a measure. We will explore social partners, trade unions and employers' organizations, but also other stakeholders and civil society organizations or social actors being active in this field, and also look to their relations, so whether they are consensual or more antagonistic. And when we look towards collective bargaining and industrial relations, as lawyers, we will of course discuss the legal framework, but we will also look to the collective bargaining system as such and how the system plays a role in the wider system of industrial relations. When we look to care workers of different kinds, of course, a crucial issue is their employment status, whether or not they are employees or they are self-employed, but also flexible, or rather, perhaps I should say, precarious forms of employment. We heard this also in the keynote speech. So what is the incidence and the regulation of fixed-term work, on-call work, demand work, temporary agency work, or part-time work? It's key aspects of care workers' working conditions. And the same goes with employment protection, of course. There are general systems of employment protection in place, but it's interesting and important to analyze how these rights to employment protection actually play out in the care sector. When we come to the core aspects of working conditions, of course, wages are important, both the regulation of minimum wages, but also all kinds of benefits related to work, including overtime and inconvenience pay. And here we will focus on the substantive content of wages, and of course also in Work Package 3, that we will hear more about soon, about non-discrimination. Of course, their wages is also an aspect of gender equality. Looking to the working situation in a wider context, aspects of working time and health and safety is crucial. Analyzing regulation and also risks of working environment risks, not only physical, but also psychosocial work environment risks. It can be stress, it can be increased workloads, but also harassment at work, for example. And it is in this context that we will also explore implications of the COVID-19 pandemic, both the situation in the pandemic, but also post-pandemic, where we can see far-reaching implications still in terms of health and safety. And important in many EU member states is, of course, the aspect of training and competence development and how this plays together with job quality. And last but not least, aspects of social security. As labor lawyers, we know that labor law goes hand in hand with social security law, and it's regulated by legislation, but also possibly complementary by collective bargaining. And it's important to see what kinds of rights and protections that care workers have in terms of pensions or sickness, unemployment, insurance. So to conclude, because I know we have a long row of presentations, that no doubt we have interesting and challenging issues to tackle and important work to carry out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mia. Thank you very much. And now I have the pleasure to give the floor to Ferran Camas Roda, professor of labor law at University of Girona, who leads the work package number 3. You have the microphone, you have to switch on.
Okay. Buonasera, è un piacere essere qui in questa meravigliosa sala della Università di Firenze. Desidero chiedere scusa di non parlare italiano, però spero di riuscirci quando avremo terminato questo progetto. Please, I apologize because I think that I have killed your wonderful language. But I promise myself that when we will finish this Horizon project, I will speak a little bit Italian. Yes, I am Ferran Camas, as Maria Luisa has told before. I would like to thank the team research of Firenze for inviting me to take part in this interesting project. I think that it will be one of my best academic experiences of my life, and I hope to work together with the team of Firenze and also with the team research of the University of Lund and the other universities that take part in this project. Before to explain also in 5 minutes, 6 minutes, what we will do, yes, I will like, because I don't want to forget, I would like to thank Professor Tecle for translating me the Spanish to Italian when of the introduction that I made before. Yes, the first the first presentation that I will show you is a little description of the work package 3 that I am responsible. I am professor of the University of Girona in the north of Catalonia in Spain, and I will work with 3 professors. I will work with 3 professors more, 2 economics and 1 professor of nursing studies. But mainly our research will be the research of socio-legal analysis of care sector, because I am a professor of labor law. What are our objectives? Our objectives is to try mapping patterns of discrimination in the care sector, focusing on 2 factors, gender and migratory status. In Spain, and I think that in all Europe, it's possible to say, I think that the feminization, the women are the collective that are more representative in the care sector, but not only women, also migrant women. As Professor Silvia Borelli said before, we will need in this work package 3 to have an intersectional perspective to analyze these 2 factors in the care sector. The gender, the representation of women in the care sector, and the representation of migrant people in the care sector. What we will do in this subject? Now, as the transparent said in front of you, we will focus on mapping and addressing discrimination in the care sectors on 2 grounds, migratory status and in particular to investigate substantive issues such as types of employment contracts, wage remuneration, work-life balance rights for workers in the care sector, health and safety at work in a gender perspective, dismissal regime, social security registration, access to social security measures, in particular with regards to unemployment benefits and retirement regime, rights of migrant workers in the care sector in comparison to other sectors, for example, in terms of renewal of work permits or family reunification, or the intersectionality, as I told before, between gender and nationality, as a driver for inequalities in the care sector. Because what are our mainly concerns? Our mainly concerns are some tendencies that are exploiting in Spain during these years, and it's possible also we will study in Italy, because I think our models, our regimes are very similar. We are Mediterranean countries, we are on the south of Spain, and we share some cultural aspects. For example, in care sector, I think that we share a certain familism in care regimes. I mean to say the reinforcement of family responsibility for care provision. And for me, this is an obstacle for equality. It could be an obstacle for women to access, for women of the family, to access to the labor market. Also in Spain, and I think in Italy, every time is most important the monoparental families, the single parent families. The most of cases is the women. The household is the women of the person who have the responsibility in these single parent families. If we don't do anything to help this situation, it is also an obstacle for these people, for these women to access to the labor market. Another tendency, and with this I will finish because I think I am overlooking the time. Another tendency is the model of the migrant in family. It will be an issue that we will study in our project. I mean to say, to receive a migrant person and to give to the migrant person a work in the care sector. Generally speaking, in the informal economy, and most of the cases, without that this migrant person have the authorization to work, that it's possible it will have consequences in the exploitation in these migrant people. I have to recognize with a lot of humility that, in my opinion, Spain, and it's possible in other countries of Europe, have to open a little bit the doors to favorite the access on regular terms, on legal terms, the access to the work in Spain and in other countries, the work to the care sector. But it will be not enough to facilitate this. I think that the states have to do a public investment in childcare, in establishments of elderly people to care them for a long term, because Spain and Italy are the countries, I think it will be the countries of Europe with more elderly people in the 2030 and the 2050. I think that today there is a low level of elderly people in Spain or in Italy in institutions. Most of the cases, they are cared at home. And I think that we have to invest with public investment to create establishment or residence to cover these kind of people. In general terms, we will try, and with this finish my speech, we will try to focus our study in gender perspective and in the migratory status of the people who work in the care service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ferran. Perfect time. And now I give the floor to Professor Francisco Medina. He's Professor of Social Psychology at University of Sevilla, and he's in charge of Work Package 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Sorry. Thank you, Maria Luisa. First of all, I like to thank the University of Firenze and all the team, the reception of today. This fantastic place, a fantastic organization, and is so happy to stay here with all of you. I really like to say that for me it's a pleasure to collaborate with the university. I'm now the Dean of the Faculty of Psychology in the University of Seville, and we have 3 double degrees with the Faculty of Psychology of the University of Firenze. For that reason, we have many students way and back during the years, a huge collaboration between both institutions, and for that reason, not only institutionally, but in a personal way, I'm so happy to stay here and continue the collaboration during the following years, and thank you for the invitation. It's a big honor for me. The second, I like to, sorry, this way? The other side, thank you. The aim of this package is to analyze working conditions and well-being at work, as well as the right awareness. There are 3 variables, 3 topics, well-being at work, and this shared with the low people from the project. Well-being, as a psychologist, we are interested not only in a bad condition, but and also in a positive way. This is a mental health definition of the United Nations to consider mental health as a well-being. And the third is a new term, and it's so interesting to define and to demonstrate, and this is the right awareness. I think it's a new concept, and we need to agree in that, and we need to define, and we need to demonstrate. And I think it's a nice idea to start thinking in that project. For illustrate this working package, I select a recent headline of El País. It's a newspaper. It's maybe the most important newspaper. And the headline says that 24 hours, 7 days in a week, the mafias convert the care of the elderly in slavery. There are many points in that. The mafia say that it's important to consider, maybe in some cases, maybe in some extreme cases, it's like a mafia situation. The non-regulation of this kind of work, 24 hours, 7 days, and also the situation is similar to slavery in some cases. And the idea is that this topic deserves to be analyzed using different perspectives, a gender perspective, intercultural perspectives, because some of the workers belong to a different cultures, to a different, maybe some of them are migrants, maybe some of them are refugees, and deserve to be analyzed using that perspective. Social exclusion analysis, because they are excluded of the society, also with psychological and psychosocial consequences, and also deserve to be analyzed using the industrial relation approach, because it's a job, it's an under-regulated job, and it's nice to understand what is the difference between the countries and learn between between us. Maybe in some countries there are good practice to be analyzed, and this is interesting to know that. And we are happy to not only collect data, but also compare the data and compare the circumstances of the different countries. And this is the idea of this working package. I like to put the different steps and what is the main, because this working package don't start during this year, but the next year, but we need a lot of preparation during this period. And the first step is to design protocols for the collecting data. And design, this is a role of the University of Firenze and ourselves, but the collaboration with the rest of the partners. For that reason, we need different approach to be analyzed inside of this topic. And the second, when we analyze, when we put the protocol and we define finally what is the data we like to collect, we send to Professor Brown to be analyzed, but using an ethical perspective, and it's so important because this kind of population has a very risk of be excluded, and it's important to be conscious that this is in this case the collection of data is we have to care about that. Not only care by care, but care in this case, in this care with this kind of population related also with the collection of data. And the third step is to collect in quantitative or qualitative. We need to think about that. Maybe it's better to collect the qualitative data or collect the quantitative data because there are different goals, but we have to decide if we do it on parallel or one first to another. But this is not the moment to decide that. The quantitative data collection, we need to know the structural variables provided by the working package 2 and 3, and also select and adapt the different scale to measure the two main variables, that's working condition and well-being, and also designed a scale to measure race awareness with the help of all the rest of the partners. The second, we need to recruit participants. In the project, we say that we need 100 participants of each country, and also to do it, collect data, and also to do it a preliminary analysis and to elaborate the first report of this part of the project. And the second is the qualitative data collection. The goal is to collect data using 4 focus groups in each country. Focus group is about 10 participants per focus group. The goal is about 40 participants. We need to train the facilitators in each country because we need to think about the languages. We need to think about the approach of the facilitators of the focus group to train to be homogeneous in all the projects. And also, when we have the focus group, we need to translate to the standard language, maybe Italian or maybe Spanish or maybe English, to be analyzed by the group, and to allow to do the data analysis. And the final step is to integrate qualitative and quantitative data and finally write the report. We start the following years, but we need to do a lot of work during the year. And it's important to be conscious about what is the deliveries that we need to provide. And the first is the questionnaires. The second is the data set of quantitative and qualitative. And the third is a descriptive situation in each countries. And the last one is to elaborate a user-friendly summary of results with practical recommendation for all the institutions. And the final step is important is to try to understand one model that explains the well-being, the low or high well-being, using all the variables we have in this project. it's nice. I'm so happy today. I'm so happy. I'm enthusiastic to be collaborating in the following years. And we think that we are doing a very nice and important job for the society. And this, we have to be happy for doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francisco. Yes, we are all very, very happy and thrilled for this research. Now we have to change again, and I kindly ask Eva, Agatha, and William if they can join me here. Okay, now, yes, this one. Okay, I give the floor to Professor Eva Kocher, Professor of Labor Law at European University Viadrina Frankfurt Oder, and she leads the work package 5. So you have the floor. Thank you, Eva.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maria Luisa, and all the Firenze team for inviting to this exciting project on this really important question we have before us. I am leading a small team at the European University Viadrina in Frankfurt Oder. It's the Frankfurt that is right at the border between Germany and Poland, so we are a quite transnational university, and that's why I'm all the more excited to be in this transnational and European project. We will be preparing a work package 5, which is supposed to bring policy proposals to improve the working conditions for care workers. So this work package will be the bridge between the empirical work that we will be doing in the work packages 2, 3, and 4, and the societal impact which we hope to achieve. So we will take all the results from work packages 2, 3, and 4 and draw normative conclusions for several levels of regulation, mainly, and I hope some legal recommendations for national and European levels. So that's the idea, to have this bridge between the research objectives and the societal outputs. The work of the policy paper is due in, I think it's month 26, so that would be February 2025. We still have some time to prepare this, but we also have to gather all the empirical results in order to really have a good basis and foundation from which to draw normative conclusions. So the idea is to develop regulatory solutions at the national levels, mainly addressing country-specific issues with impact on those member states that are involved in the project. The whole project is supposed to give templates also for member states and countries that are not directly involved in this project, but this will be a bit more difficult for regulatory solutions because, as we know as lawyers, all regulatory solutions, they have to be adapted to specific legal systems and specific legal frameworks. So our approach in this work package is more directed to those member states that participate and are involved in this project. We will also develop regulatory solutions at EU level with a view of a common regulation in the care sector in the context of the EU care strategy. Well, and this will also be a difficult and ambitious goal that we have set ourselves, but such a comparative design of the work project is very apt to develop EU solutions because we have here a whole variety of legal systems present and represented on the project. They differ quite a lot, so we think we can really represent the whole variety of regulatory approaches in the EU member states, and therefore give a very good idea of what could be a European and EU approach to regulation in this sector. The policy proposals are supposed to cover a variety of policy areas. So we will address general policy objectives. That means policy objectives of decent care, decent work, non-discrimination of job quality, valuation of work, social cohesion, vulnerable groups, fight against poverty, issues of global care chains, which are involved in particular in the living care sectors, undeclared work, workforce shortages, and the intersection with migration regimes. Secondly, we will look to develop measures in national laws for all the legal systems involved in this project, social security systems, funding of the health sectors, benefits for families in view of the familialism of many care systems, minimum wages, anti-discrimination policies, professional qualifications, in particular recognition of professional qualifications of migrants, career policies, vocational training, and legal frameworks for collective bargaining. The measures will also address national social partners and institutions, not only laws and legislators, but also those social partners that are responsible for collective bargaining and institutions that regulate the social security system below legislative levels. And more or less the same issues will be addressed with measures in EU law and with measures for European social partners and institutions. We will also look into EU options for information and consultation, for incentives and best practice guidelines, for framework agreements. So it will not only be EU law, but also other instruments on the EU level in order to counteract discrimination and achieve better working conditions in the care sector. So that's the goal, quite ambitious, I think, but also we have time for that and time while discussing the empirical results. The road to the CARE4CARE policy paper is that we, the Viadrina team, we will develop a grid, a questionnaire for all the national teams, because we will then collect all the policy measures and idea on among the partners involved in this project. Because it is also important for us not to only look at our results and our regulatory ideas, but to take into account what is happening and what is being discussed in the member states in order to be able to take into account the regulatory debates that are happening at national levels and at EU level. So according to our grid and questionnaire, all the partners will collect the materials, policy strategies at the national and European level, and we will have the responsibility then to draft a policy paper out of this material. The draft policy paper will then be the object of discussion with social partners and stakeholders. We will have an online meeting with policy makers, with stakeholders. I hope we can have a hybrid meeting there. I think that is what is planned, in fact. So we will be able to meet, but enable online discussion with policymakers and stakeholders. We will be addressing representatives from national agencies, from equality bodies, from ministries and social security institutions, trade unions on national and European level, associations of employers, elderly and people, representations of elderly and people with disability, human rights and anti-discrimination advocates. So we will be taking up contacts and maintaining contacts to NGOs on national and European level, and care work activists. So that's the plan. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva. Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Professor Agata Ludera-Rugel, Professor of Labor Law at University of Rzeszów, who is in charge of Work Package 6.
Good evening. First of all, on behalf of my University of Rzeszów team, Aneta and Hubert, we would like to thank you for being a part of this brilliant project with so great importance. The VP6 is devoted for training, design, and delivery. The goal of VP6 is twofold. At first, VP6 will be devoted to designing and development of a ready-to-use training model that will be delivered at national level of every country partner to the project, with only a minor adaptation reflecting specific national characteristics of a care work sector. And this ready-to-use training model would be, in fact, tested at the national level of the country partner of the project. And based on the assessment received, there will be elaborated a replicable training model that will be transferred also to the countries that are not involved in the consortium. We distinguished a target group of VP6 that consists of trade unions, employers, and families associations representatives. And we identified a few objectives of Work Package 6. First and foremost, the objective of training program is to facilitate the unionization of care workers and to improve coverage of collective bargaining in the care sector. That, in consequence, will improve, we believe that it will improve job quality of care workers. That will be possible due to the rising awareness on the critical features of care work among national trade unions and on the importance of trade union action in the care sector, making trade unions and family associations representatives familiar with the specific vulnerabilities of care workers, enhancing the competence and skills, including negotiation skills for trade union representatives involved in social dialogue in sectors with a high prevalence of care workers, improving skills to prevent and solve interpersonal conflicts, both in complex organizations and in the family contexts, and empower trade unions, employers, and family associations representatives with knowledge and skills on effective strategies to recognize vulnerabilities of care workers. Work within VP6 will be divided in 4 stages. The first stage will be devoted to the analysis of training needs of target group. We believe that this stage is crucial, it's very crucial, since it ensures that the further stages within work in this work package will be based on a reliable training needs, not on our assumptions about this training needs. The analysis of training needs will involve both quantitative and qualitative research methods. For this aim, there will be used a survey on TG needs. by the use of Google Drive functions. And this will be the survey on TG needs will be apart from the survey, there will be used also an interviews on TG needs to further investigate those needs emerge through the survey. The second stage of work will be devoted to the design of training curriculum. As a baseline, there will be used data collected through the survey and interviews. And additionally, there will be used also findings of research activities from VP 2, 3, 4, and 5. A training program will involve both identical modules, and there will be also some room for country-specific parts, such as legislation, collective bargaining, etc. We believe that the approach will be based on the blended learning approach that will employ traditional classroom, instructor-led training and interactive learning techniques such as case studies, role-playing, quiz, question cards, demonstrations, group discussion. The next stage within VP6 will be training delivery. There will be 6 in every country partner to the project, at least 2 days face-to-face training courses that will involve approximately 20-13 trainees per country. There will be also a possibility based on the assumption of the country partner to increase the number of participants. There will be ensured, if possible, gender and nationality balance. The courses will be provided through co-teaching, but there will be also an experimental part that will employ practical experiences from people sharing their own professional experience. To all participants will be given a certificate of attendance. And the last part of VP6, there will be a follow-up and revision of the training program, the very important part of VP6. It will be based on an evaluation of the skills acquired by the participant and a questionnaire on the satisfaction of the training. Based on the findings, there will be provided an assessment on the effectiveness of the training course that will be made by the leader of the VP6. And based on the assessment on the effectiveness, there will be the training course model will be revised for the aim to elaborate them and to make them replicable in the country that are not the partners to the consortium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agata. Thank you, Agata. Then now it's the turn of Professor William Chiaromonte, colleagues in University of Florence, who will lead work package 7.
Good afternoon, everyone, and let me first of all thank everyone who took part in this kickoff meeting. Today, my task is to briefly outline the objectives and the contents of work package number 7. As Professor Vallauri already said in her presentation of the project, the third outcome of the CARE4CARE project consists in the realization by the University of Florence research team of the CARE4CARE web platform, which is one of the main outputs of the project. Concerning the objectives, the activities of work package number 7 are aimed at designing, launching, and promoting a web platform in order to improve the rights awareness of care workers. In our idea, the CARE4CARE web platform will be functional to provide information regarding the rights of care workers in a clear, simple, and complete way. CARE4CARE web platform will be structured to provide user-friendly information on relevant national and European legislation, applicable collective agreements, administrative procedure to access welfare measures, contacts of trade unions, employers' associations, and stakeholders, user-friendly explanatory notes of relevant information, etc. The societal output of this activity, in other words, is providing care workers and stakeholders with sector-specific, concise, and easily accessible information about rights, administrative, and legal procedure. In addition, care workers, as well as families who act as employers, will find useful links and contacts of trade unions representative and employers association at national and EU level, ready to help and support them in case of need. The University of Florence research team is lead partner for work package number 7, so we will carry out the activities and coordinate work of the other project partners in the realization of all necessary tasks. Information technology will be used to make information easily accessible to a wide range of users, such as workers, employers, and representatives of the various categories. Professor Lorenzo Bettini of the University of Florence, a professor of information technology, an expert in software development and implementation, will in particular coordinate the technical part of the creation of the web platform to make it adequate to achieve the expected results in terms of accessibility by workers and other stakeholders of the information related to work in the care sector. At this point, it is necessary to briefly outline the steps that will lead us to the realization of the web platform. First of all, the information contained in the web platform will be the re-elaboration by the national partner of the results of the research work carried out in working packages number 2, 3, and 5. Then, partner will collect references of contacts and relevant information about stakeholders at the national level. Regarding the concrete implementation of the web platform, we will first evaluate the existing technologies that might best fit our objectives. After the evaluation phase, we will start developing the web platform and upload a few contents in order to further evaluate its usability. In particular, we will concentrate on its usability with the main browsers, and we will also make sure that it can be used also by mobile devices. Concerning this last aspect, we might also evaluate the feasibility of the development of a specific app for mobile devices in order to make our web platform contents even easier to use from a mobile device. In the meantime, a sample of care workers and stakeholders will be selected in each country with equal distribution of gender, age, and migratory status, and adequately representative of all professions in the target group. A key element is that the information contained in the CARE4CARE web platform will be accessible in the national language of the selected country partner and will be translated also in English. On the basis of the data collected in the working package number 2 on the nationality composition of the target population in the care sector in each country, the information provided will also be translated for each country in the 2 most spoken languages by the migrant population of care workers. A demo version of the web platform will be presented to the selected sample of workers and stakeholders for their assessment to ensure that both the operational solution adopted, the design of the platform, and its content make it a user-friendly, easily accessible, and useful tool. Further to the results of assessment carried out, amendments will be made to the web platform if needed, and the final version will be presented in the final conference of the CARE4CARE project. Lastly, the partner of the project will move on to achieve its final ambition, which is to make the web platform structural, maintaining it updated after the end of the project, and also to include further countries in addition to the project partner in the web platform. For this purpose, all partners will cooperate for the development of a sustainability plan for CARE4CARE platform to ensure its retention, update, and maintenance after the end of the project. Partners have planned to setting up of a network on care work, with the aim of maximizing the dissemination of the results of the project and its impact. Among other goals, the network on care work will also ensure the maintenance of the web platform. And the sustainability plan will also investigate further opportunities of funding to update the web platform and to extend the engagement of stakeholders from other EU countries in order to broaden its geographical scope. And now, just a few concluding words. In our opinion, the idea behind the web platform could be usefully exported for the purpose of making care workers aware of their rights, in order to combat discrimination, including intersectional discrimination, improve job quality in the sector, and promote social inclusion. We believe that knowledge and awareness of rights are essential tools for emancipation and inclusion of care workers. And we also believe that the web platform will constitute an excellent means to achieve these goals. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, William. Thank you to all of you. Now we have the last round before the final remarks, and so I kindly ask to join me Simona, Aude, and Aurélie. So thank you very much. Now it's Simona Costa's turn, Head of Office of Tour4U, Task and Organization of University and Research for Europe. Simona is in charge of Work Package 4 that deals with dissemination, engagement, and communication.
Thank
Simona,
you very much, Professor. And I'm very happy to be here today in Florence for the launch of this project that is a very important project for us. I'm Simona Costa, and I represent Tour4U, which is the organization of the 7 universities from Tuscany and Regione and the regional authority of Tuscany. And we are in charge of Work Package 8, dissemination, engagement, and communication. So as you can see, our office is based in Brussels. We exist since May 2018 and brings together the 7 universities. So Florence is one of our universities represented in the association. So the aim of our activity in general as an office is to promote the interest of the Tuscan research system in the context of the European Union, also support the participation of the Tuscan ecosystem in European projects, and encourage also the collaboration between researchers and other European partners. Of course, we promote also pro-European project, and we are really happy that this project, coordinated by University of Florence, is one of the selected at European level within the Horizon Europe program. So this is our team. I'm happy to show the team also because in the next 3 years, you will see us quite often as we are the communication team. So myself, Simona Costa, Head of Office, then there will be Valeria Piantedosi, that today is not here, she's based in Brussels. Giulia Apreotesei, that he's also here, and Stefano Pellegrino, that is in charge of the communication with social media and the web and the update of the website. So in Work Package 8, we have 5 deliverables to bring till the end of the project. So we'll be very active all over the project, in all the phases of the project. What has been done so far? In particular, we have nearly finalized, so we send already to all the partners the dissemination, exploitation, and communication plan that is very important to be done at the beginning of the project, of course, identifying all the tools, all the activity that will be done all over the project, along the project, and also the exploitation part that is also very important, how the project will continue to live after the end of the project itself. So, I mean, this strategy will be totally finalized at the end of this month, so March. In the meantime, we have worked hard in the last month trying to elaborate the logo. That you saw everywhere also. And also thanks to all the partners and to the coordinator that had already a clear idea from the beginning on the type of logo to be used. The key message that was we care for those who care, that this will be the main key message that will be spread all over the project. And then we elaborated in the meantime the Word, the PowerPoint template layout that have been distributed to all the partners that can be used for all the presentation that we will have during the 3 years. And finally, also, we identify all the material, the layout, and the colors, and the typeface to use, the font to use for all the partners. So we are very proud also to announce today the launch of the website. So from now on, the website is online. And the address is www.care4care.net. There will be a lot of space and visibility also for all the work package, all the documents that will be produced by the different work packages and partners. We have, in the meantime, also launched all the social media accounts. So we have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We have elaborated a scan QR code in order to follow us on the media, and I strongly recommend you, in these days, probably you saw our face quite often because we try to link with, first of all, to all our partners, but also in the next week, we will try to do our best in order to include in our network as much people as possible interested in the results and the outcomes of the projects. So here you have also the hyperlink to reach it. In the meantime, we have also in the communication dissemination exploitation strategy elaborated together with the coordinator and the partners also the stakeholder mapping. So 8 typology of stakeholders. So now we have also a mailing list that will be also updated during all the projects with all the important and key stakeholders that we want to reach during the evolution of the project. So care workers, European national and regional policymakers and national regulators, European national and regional networks, European and national trade unions, families, employers, association representative, civil society, equality bodies, ministries and public agency, and of course the press and media, the one based in Brussels, but also the other one that will be in all the country involved in our projects. So we already have published a couple of press releases, one at the beginning of the project and today, yesterday in reality, to launch and also to promote the participation today here at the event, online and in presence. And of course, there will be another press release also as a follow-up of this event today. And in general, we will try to cover with at least a couple of press releases per year, but even more. And of course, I will ask to all the partners when they want to promote something at European level, but also national level, to be in contact with us so that we can try to help as much as possible. All the partners. These are some examples of press review that have been published these days. We had a quite important coverage of the press at national level, starting from our national agency based in Brussels that have spread the information at national, technical, and also regional and local level. So yes, again, other articles that have been also then sent already in all our social media. What has to be done in the future? Of course, we will launch very soon a newsletter, at least 3 per year, 3 newsletters per year. 3 times per year, and the aim, of course, of the newsletter is to update all the time partners, what the partners are achieving, but also be in contact with sister projects, for example, from Horizon Europe, or other initiative at European level that could be interesting to be in contact with. And then we will ask quite often also regularly to our partners contribution. We will ask probably also tomorrow to have a quick and short interview in order to have materials already for the website and also for the newsletter. And then our duty will be also to support our partners in the promotion of local and European events. So we have several deadlines for that. And at the end of the project is planned a big event to organize in Brussels. So our idea is to possibly to organize it at the European Parliament in order to have as much as possible the visibility at political level, including, of course, the European Member of the Parliament, the Council, and the European Commission. So thank you for your attention, and don't forget our QR code for subscribing our social media. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simona, also for your job that you made already. And now we have the last 2 partners, but not, of course, for importance. We are very happy that both of you joined our consortium because Aude Bossel and Eurolideker, FE and FC, the 2 associations, are 2 partners from the civil society. So your contribution will be very, very important. Aude Bossel, General Delegate of the European Federation for Family Employment and Home Care, and it is one of the main actors involved in the personal and household services sector at the EU level. So I give you the floor with great pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Maria Luisa. I'm very glad that EFE can take part to this project. So thank you for the invitation. So I'm representing the European Federation for Family Employment and Home Care. I'm here with my colleague Thomas. We are a European association representing the domestic and home care sector at EU level, and our members are a national organization representative first of households as employers of domestic and care workers, also civil society organizations and a professionalization organization. We were created 10 years ago, and we are, well, working at EU level with our, as you said, partners from the personal and household services sector for the recognition and the development of the sector. So, of course, we worked closely with European institutions on the European care strategy. And so we are working, yes, for the recognition of the home care sector, affordable, accessible for all. And I leave you the floor, Aurélie.
Thank you, Aude. So please, Aurélie, Director of European Federation for Services to Individuals, that represent national association, employers association, personal health services providers and companies involved in the development of personal and household services. And that is currently operating in 21 EU member states, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So I give you the floor with great pleasure.
Thank you, Maria Luisa. Good afternoon, everybody. So as all partners here, I think on behalf of FC, we are very glad to have been able to join this project, which is very topical. So as FC, we are representing a national association. Some of them are trade associations, some are social partners, but also companies that are either providing directly what we called personal and household services, or which are involved in the provision of the services through specific tools, such as social vouchers or software, etc. We are indeed in a sector which face many challenges. It has been mentioned by several speakers this afternoon. We do estimate at European level that our sector, so the PHS sector or domestic work sector, employs roughly 10 million workers in the European Union. At least 1/3 of them are undeclared. And on top of that, we have at least 2 million workers who are formally employed, but who do not benefit from social protection rights equaling regular workers. So this is, for us, of course, an issue. We've been working for several years on the question of how to improve the working condition of our workers, or how to promote decent working conditions in the sector. We have been heavily involved in the discussion surrounding the ILO Convention 189 on decent work for domestic workers. And more recently, with FA, but also with our trade union sisters at European level, EFAT and Unieuropa, we have launched an EU social dialogue on PHS. And I will leave the floor to Aude to present in detail what we are doing in that regard.
Thank you, Aurélie. Yes. At the moment, there's no social dialogue on domestic and home care sector, but we are now working together for, I think, 5 years, trying to raise awareness on this sector. It started by an EU-funded project in 2018 called the Advanced Personal and Household Services sector. And then we worked, as Aurélie said, on the 10th anniversary of the ILO Convention 189 on domestic work. We worked together on a European conference, trying to gather all stakeholders to say, okay, now 10 years later, what's new on the sector and what advanced. And in 2022, we finally recognized ourselves as social partners, and so we had the recognition by the European Commission. So now we just get the new funded project called PHS Dialogue, so we will move forward for the creation of social dialogue representative at national level. So yeah, I think there's a clear need on this. I don't know.
Yes, and to finish, because the aim of this presentation was to present what will be our involvement in the CARE4CARE project. So as you already seen we are the outsiders, we are not academics. So our role in the project will be to ensure that the project sticks to the needs of professionals of the care sector. We will be here to liaise with other employers' organizations and other trade unions also. We will, of course, also try to maximize the communication and the dissemination of the project results among trade unions and decision makers, mostly at European level, but hopefully also thanks to the support of our members at national levels too. And so we will be involved in each work package that has been presented this afternoon on different levels.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we are moving to the end of this meeting, and now I ask Isabelle Dugarey, Professor Isabelle Dugarey, to join me for her final remarks. Thank you to all of you. Okay, so Professor Isabelle Dugarey is Professor of Labor Law at University of Bordeaux, and I'm very happy she agreed to conclude this meeting, this presentation of our project. So thank you, Isabelle.
Good afternoon, colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank very much William and Maria Luisa for having taken this research initiative. My colleague Guillaume Santoro from Bordeaux, who could not participate to this meeting, joins me for these few introductory words. At the end of this first day, during which we have been able to appreciate the presentation of Silvia Borelli, who has already made some very relevant analysis on this subject, and after listening to the presentations of the work packages by all the colleagues associated with the research project, it is up to me to say a few words which are not conclusive, but rather contextualize our research. There is, with an international and theoretical perspective, which I think reveals the fantastic interest of this project. 2 points, 2 parts, as in French Academy, sorry. About an international perspective, firstly, I would just like to remind the ILO's work on the subject, publishing a report in 2018 on care work, which provides 2 findings explaining the value placed on care work. First finding, on a global scale, the majority of care work is done by unpaid providers, mostly women and girls from disadvantaged social categories. Unpaid care work is a key determinant of women's entry and retention in the labor force and the quality of the jobs they hold. Women do 76.2% of all unpaid care work, 3.2 times more than men. They spend 4 hours, 25 minutes by day on this work, compared to 1 hour, 23 minutes for men. Over the course of a year, this amounts to 201 days with 8 hours per day, almost a full time. 640 million people of working age are economically inactive because of their family responsibilities. The second finding in the ILO report: the majority of paid care workers are women, often migrants, who work in the informal economy in poor working conditions and for low pay. The care workforce is gendered: 249 million women versus 132 million men. It is an extremely heterogeneous category in terms of qualifications, employment status, remuneration, working condition. Some jobs flirt with domestic work and informal work. Poor job quality for care workers leads to poor quality of care service, as said ILO. These two findings are the two elements of the cycle of unpaid care work and paid care work. This cycle, described by ILO, is not a positive cycle. It's a negative cycle. This negative cycle can be cutted. How? By welfare state, by social partners rethinking the care. Our project has the aim to contribute to, with the Work Package 5 and Work Package 6, to do some proposition for new regulation, new policies, new training, to try to cut this cycle. The ILO saw that paid care work will remain an important source of employment. Why? Because the relational nature of care activities limits the possibility of replacing human labor with robots or other technical devices. Because the incidence of several disabilities leading to paid and unpaid home help requiring lifelong support is increasing. Because the elderly population is growing. Because changes in family structures, because changing needs for care services for others, and because rising female employment rates. All these elements are factors that explain the rise in demand for paid care services and the consequent erosion of unpaid care. Care work is a vast reservoir of jobs for future. The ILO estimates that investment in the care economy needs to be doubled, creating 269 million jobs by next year, 2030. But what kind of jobs? To answer to this question, and it's my second point, and I try to open a theoretical perspective. I remember here, like Sylvia, that we owe Joanne Tronto the critical theory of care. In her book of 1993, she proposed a political and social approach of the care. She denounces the mechanisms that have contributed to the marginalization of care in our societies. More care deviates from medical care, more it is abandoned by the powerful. And I give this example suggested by the book. For example, if we look at the history of cleaning tasks related to bodily functions, which are central to the care of the most dependent person, small children, the elderly, the handicapped, etc., we see that these tasks have mainly been assigned to women, but not to all of them. according to John Tronto, to people of color, and to the working classes. Thus, she demonstrates that care is the object of a social division according to gender, race, and class. It can then become the object of poorly paid and little regarded work, even though it is an essential part of our society. This is the paradox. This systematic, and this point will be demonstrated in our project with Work Package 2, Work Package 3, and Work Package 4, which will demonstrate the working condition, the status of employment, profile workers, etc., etc. This systematic devaluation of care is rooted in a constant association with the private sphere, affectivity and proximity. Care is thus naturalized, and its recognition as work is difficult, really. For Joan Tronto, the aim is to propose a political and social approach to care, which implies taking seriously the activities of service and all these institutions that take care of great vital or social vulnerability. From then on, the reflection on care is inflected by a social and political approach, radically denaturalizing and with non-romantic position, friend of care, which shows the violence of the assignment to care and the power games in such relationship to the point that care becomes a burden. Tronto makes care a fundamental activity for human nature while showing how the perspectives of care and solicitude can be integrated with the demand for equality carried by justice in a democratic society, as Sylvia said. This objective means empower care worker. And I think that our project have this objective to empower work worker with the Work Package 7, giving this possibility every day for each worker. To finish, and I will finish my speech, recording the ILO Centenary Declaration. In the ILO Centenary Declaration, ILO consider that care work is an element, an essential element to achieve gender equality at work by promoting a more balanced sharing of family responsibilities and encouraging investment in the care economy. So, we can conclude for today that our project is finally under the umbrella of a radical feminist approach. Thank you very much. I hope all the best for this project.
Thank you, Isabella. You were right. This is not a conclusion, but it's the starting point of our project. So I think we have our ideas are clear, quite clear. We are quite well organized. So now, good luck to all of us for this project. We joined the end of this meeting, so I want to thank all of you for following us, also those who are following us online, and I say goodbye, welcoming. Sorry, Dr. Rizzi wants to... Sorry, it wasn't in the agenda, this intervention.
Okay, sorry. I will steal your just 2 minutes to say one thing. As you have heard, I've been lucky enough to be part of the lovely Florence family last year and to be engaged in the development of this project. It has been the greatest maybe professional experience I had, because we in the academia is always said that, and we do not know if it's a myth, that writing Horizon project is a very complex thing. In fact, you have to deal with idea, concept, knowledge, but also numbers, Excel files, mixing, matching, different systems. And I just want to testify that this has been a great group commitment and effort to make it possible. And I believe that many of the people that were involved haven't worked before together, but they were successful. And as it often happens when there is a group, there is also a leader who is a person who does not control and command or assign tasks, but is often the person who works harder and who take full accountability of the path toward a success or not. And that person has been Maria Luisa Vallauri. And she wasn't prepared until a few minutes ago. And I want to say that I believe that she didn't need to do it for her professional growth, career, or whatsoever, but she did it because she wanted, she believed in the topic, because she was smart to pick the right topic. I had stopped, and because she wanted to challenge herself. And that makes you a role model. So thank you. I'll finish. Thank you for being a role model and made it possible. Congratulations. I don't work here anymore. I don't care. I can say whatever I want.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you.